Hello, I'm Kevin from KITRONIK, and in this video I'm going to show you some of the most commonly used tools and techniques for reworking solder joints. We're going to use solder wick, we're also going to use solder suckers. So let's look at these in more detail. So here we have some solder wick. It's normally supplied in these handy little dispensers, and it's a woven copper braid. Now what that woven copper can do is it can mop up molten solder. So let me show you how we use this. We first place it across the joint, and then apply heat across the top of the solder wick, down onto the solder joint. And we can see here the solder that's been wicked away from this joint and into this solder wick or braid. It leaves the component joint nice and clean, and you should be able to remove this part. So this is a solder sucker, and it's a very commonly used tool for removing excess solder from joints. Here we have a nozzle, and then here we have a plunger. This depresses and squashes a spring on the inside. We can then release it by pressing the button here. When it's released, it quickly sucks solder up the nozzle inside, removing it from the solder joint. See that there? Depress and release. So here's a joint where we've applied too much solder. So we're going to use a solder sucker to remove it. So we first depress the plunger on the solder sucker so it's ready to go. We then heat the solder with the soldering iron, place the solder sucker across the top of the solder, and then depress the button so the plunger pops up and removes the solder. So let's give that a go. You can see it's removed some of the solder, but not all of it. So we can give that another go. There we go. We've now removed all that solder from that joint. So here we have a very handy little tool. What it is a heated solder sucker. Normally, when you're removing solder using a solder sucker, you have a separate solder sucker and a separate soldering iron. This can make it difficult to use when you're trying to also hold a PCB. This tool combines the soldering iron and the solder sucker into a single part. So we can see here we have a heated end and a nozzle. The solder sucker element that pulls the solder up the nozzle, and then it's controlled as normal one would be, where you have a plunger and a release. So let me show you this in action. So I've depressed the plunger. So we have a row of joints. Heat, suck, done. Depress the plunger. Next one, heat, suck, done. Again, depress the plunger. Heat, suck, finished. Depress the plunger for the last time. Heat, suck, finished. And the part has fallen out.